How's it going, guys? This is Ketchup and Mustard here once again. The patch is almost upon us. We're now. It's gone 12 o'clock. We're now in the time where the patch should be live. We're going up way later on, but the patch notes are up now. So we don't know if anything else is going to be given, hidden or not listed. We're only going to go by what is on the site now. Huge shouts to Tyler Lansdowne for putting up the patch notes on the WB Games community forum. And there's a lot to go through. This video specifically is about what we think of the Triborg changes. There's been quite a few across the board, but Triborg is no exception for these buffs and nerfs and what have you. And we're going to answer, which is definitely going to be the most asked question, which is what do we think of these changes? So we're going to talk about the universal changes first, and then we're going to go into the variation stuff, where I'm going to talk about Sector, Mustard's going to talk about Cyrax, you know the drill. First things first, the universal changes to Triborg. The back one is slower, 4 frames slower. Back one is now 22 frames, definitely reactable. The element of the 50-50 has been nerfed here because the back one is just generally slower, and if you're looking for it, you can probably react to it now. Other than that, the forward 1-3, which was a somewhat of a stagger people would use, is now -8 on block. It used to be -4, but it's +8 on hit. The back one and the forward 1-3 both have increased cancel advantage, basically, which means that we would assume that from what we saw in the GIFs, Cyber Sub-Zero will now be able to meterlessly combo into Ice Ball again, like he could before. So that's what those changes are. The only other universal change is the back 3 is now 1 frame slower than it was before. So in general, if you're not Cyber Sub-Zero, these are definitely 3 nerfs right here.
Yeah,
Definitely 3
and
nerfs.
that's something that I feel is worth considering, because even though Cyber Sub will be able to combo from forward 1-3 into Ice Ball again, which is great for him, maybe even combo off the back one, very consistently now with the Ice Ball, which again would be great for him. For everyone else, this is definitely enough, because losing the 50-50 in the back one, we're not really too mad about that, because that's something that a lot of characters have had. They've even had their either 50-50 straight up taken away, or they're not overheads anymore. So at least it still hits overhead, but it's definitely reactable now, which again, runs into the theme of the rest of the patch. However, the forward 1-3 being -8 on block instead of -4, Triborg players were kind of semi-staggering forward 1-3-1 on block, because you could end it at -4, they expect you to finish it, so you get a down 1 or a down 3 and maybe get something else after it. Or you might even be able to be cheeky and do like a forward 1-3, know they're blocking and go into a forward 4 instead and try and catch them. Now it's -8 on block, unless you're Cyrax can put a saw at the end of it, Smoke can do a smoke bomb, but there'll be a gap. I'm not quite sure what Cyber Sub or Sector could do to stay safe. Whenever they do forward 1-3 on block now, that's at very least going to be a free poke. So -8, some characters can actually straight up full combo punish you for that. So that's a big hit, because forward 1-3 was actually quite a useful string in pressure for staggering. But it will still combo with Cyber Sub now anyway.
Speaking of Cyber Sub,
yes, the first changes.
Cyber Sub has received quite small changes. His meter burn slide now has 2 hits of armor. It's not really a buff, it's just the new direction this patch has taken, where if it knocks down and it doesn't launch and it's meter burn, it's probably going to have 2 hits of armor now. It's going to be the go-to reversal, basically. Other than that, there's been a bug fix, but that's basically Cyber Sub. Very minimal changes there. Sector's the interesting one for me, because he's been given basically all buffs. The Flamethrower, his meter burn flame burner now has 2 hits of armor. Again, it's a consistency thing. It's not really a buff as much as it is a change into the new version of the game. But they've buffed his zoning. His straight missile has 5 less recovery frames, 5 more block stun frames, and slight pushback, which basically means that it's going to be a really good zoning tool. It's safer on block, which means that you can do a missile on block slightly closer without having to worry about getting punished, which was a big worry. That it was very unsafe. I think it was like -18 or something. So you're not going to be able to use it up close still, because it's still going to be unsafe on block up close, but it is going to make that kind of jump distance and closer projectile less risky if the opponent just so happens to be there and they block it. So the pushback is going to help that as well. Speaking of pushback, they have given additional pushback to his Flamethrower as well, his Flame Burner, sorry, the regular version. I think that was like -13 or something by itself, and it's now got more pushback, which basically just means it's going to be harder to punish. So Sector's been buffed, his zoning has been improved, which is kind of interesting to me, because I don't really feel like the zoning was something he struggled with. I feel like some characters could get around it, but that's matchups. One variation is not going to beat everything in the game, and I understood that. But giving him better zoning, I'm totally fine with, but I don't really feel like Sector needed that. I feel like other characters, or Triborg specifically, across other variations may have needed those buffs a little bit more. I don't think Sector needed them as much, especially seeing as the new mechanics of the game, with the armored launchers basically being taken out and the delayed wake up changing to ignore meter burn inputs. They help Sector a lot, because now you're not going to accidentally get delayed wake up when trying to do flame burner, and it's not as risky for you to go for your gapped strings, because now the punish will be an armored knockdown into full screen, which is where you want to be anyway. It's not going to be a full combo like it was before. So all in all, Sector, he's in a good place right now.
Smoke has a couple of changes, a bug fix with the X-ray, which seemed to be like I guess a general bug here. I never really saw it, but if they fixed it, it must have been a thing. Smoke bomb and smoke cloud used to hit you, like if you wanted to go into a smoke bomb and block after certain things and you tried to jump on a read, it would actually catch you in the air and still hit you for a full combo. They now only hit you if you're like planted on the ground outside of a juggle. So if you think he's going to go into smoke bomb on block, you can now jump, and you won't get hit by it. You actually can get out that way. You might even be able to punish him. I'm not really sure in hindsight. I can't really picture it in my head, but regardless, you're a bit more safer now for the options. Cyrax changes. These are the big ones that I've been trying to. I've been thinking about these a lot since we first read these patch notes. It's a lot of bug fixes, which might not seem quite as important, but they are. Like these are a big deal. There's a couple of bugs where the net would either, they'd be able to block or get out of it straight away. It would kind of move around. There's some weird bugs. Check out Scars Unseen's YouTube and you'll be able to see some funny videos she posted using these bugs. It was quite funny. But the important one is fix a bug where Scatterport would have extended recovery after you hit with a shrapnel port. So if you hit them, there was a chance your recovery would go nuts, and you'd actually be fully punishable by hitting the teleport, and you kind of just stand there like a donut while they hit you with whatever they want because you guessed right on your reversal and you got the one hit of it. It was so frustrating when it happened, and I'm really, really happy to hear that they fixed it. But the one and only actual buff that Cyrax has received in this patch is Shrapnel Port now has 2 hits of armor, which is going to help him getting off the ground and getting out of certain characters like, Lao 11212 or maybe Liu Kang. But that's about it. Now, initially when I read these notes, I thought Cyrax is going to seriously struggle for a couple of reasons. Mainly, if you look through this patch notes list, almost every character, or a big portion of the cast, now have a move that's armored and hits twice with armor. So 2 hits of armor on it, sometimes even 3 hits of armor. That will mean that the majority of the mix-ups and the Oki that Cyrax players are going for right now aren't going to work, because you're not going to be able to armor break wake-ups, especially the whole point of armor breaking wake-up is if it's safe or really, really threatening, you armor break it. You know they're going to wake up, so you armor break it. You make them regret that choice, which opens up more Oki for you later. So, armor break them this time so they don't wake up next time. You can't do that anymore. I can see Cyrax really struggling. However, upon reflection, armor across the board is a lot worse in this patch. So what made Cyrax's armor so bad before was it was so bad in comparison to everyone else's. Everyone else would launch, everyone else would get serious damage, everyone else was so fast, everyone, they wouldn't get armor broken. And then, poor old Cyrax, his teleport would get armor broken, low profile, it's a knockdown he's not particularly useful for, he doesn't launch. Now, he's got 2 hits, and it still knocks down. That's actually quite good by armor in the current build of the game, it seems, and it has 2 hits, which is really good for it. Combine that with the nerf to running and stamina, and anti-airs getting buffed, I think Cyrax might actually have a much better neutral this time round. So his mix is weaker, because you can still armor break off an air net if you do the back 2 into the medium bomb and hit 3 times. You can still armor break anything with that, but that's an easy block. It puts you in a bad position after it, and it's reactable 100%. They can see you do the back 2, and bam, they know exactly what's coming, and it's a very, very simple block. So the mix is a lot weaker in my mind. I can see the mix-up potential being a lot weaker, but the neutral could be a lot better, which might reward the slow, reactive, I guess more calculated Cyrax play. So the craziness of just doing what you want and always fishing for that mix might be a little bit less effective, but the calculated neutral play might be a little bit better. It's all going to depend on how the game is played and how the meta shifts with the new mechanics and these big changes. If Cyrax shifts along well with it, he might be okay.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how well he's going to fit into this version of the game. I mean,
Exactly.
the double hitting armor could introduce an entire new bag of problems for him.
It's the triple hitting armor that worries me.
Yeah, well,
We're gonna have to wait and see.
my initial train of thought was, well, he can only really do one thing currently. His lack of a good mid makes it kind of tricky for him to deal with certain characters.
That was another thing though. Is right now Cyrax his mids are forward 2 and forward 4. They don't have amazing range. They are pretty fast. They start up well, but they don't have amazing range. Your options after them aren't great. Saw on block is not an ideal situation against a lot of characters. So a lot of people would, they'd kind of just crouch and hover around just outside of forward 4 range, which is quite easy to space on the receiving end. And, they'd just look for you to do a forward 1, or they'd look for you to do a, standing 2 or standing 3 for the plus frames or whatever, and they just wait for you to do a high and, stand up and whiff punish you. Your deterrent for doing that used to be back wanting them just outside of forward 4 range, because if they just wanted to, be clever and neutral crouch you because you're Cyrax and your mids are really short range, then, you just smack them on the head and overhead, hit them into, 40% or mix time. But you're now no longer going to get the mix after it unless we can create some new setups. But also, the back one being so much slower now, you're just going to neutral crouch and react to that. You're just going to stand up and block. So that kind of just outside of forward 4 range, he's going to struggle a lot more than he used to. But at that sort of mid-screen range, when you've got a close bomb in front of you, he's going to be a little bit better because anti-airs and jump-ins across the board are a bit more fixed, right?
Looking forward to seeing what Triborg standing for anti-air is going to be tomorrow when the patch hits. That could be insane.
If the standing 1 works the way MK9 standing 1
works, MK9 all over again.
That will be perfect if standing 1 anti-air with Triborg is what we need.
This is basically a very quick, a very sort of casual run over of what we think of the patches on paper. We've done a very long, arduous run over of every other character if you guys have the endurance for that one. But this video is going to focus just on Triborg. So hopefully we cleaned up answered a little bit of the questions. Our opinion totally could change when the patch hits because we might see it in action, we might utilize it and go, you know what, this ain't so bad. So sit tight, really. Expect tons of MK footage from this week onwards when the patch comes out because we're very excited to see what happens. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this cleaned up one of the many questions we're no doubt going to get asked with the patch. And that's it. Cheers, and we'll catch you later.